NIA BTEC Sport Level 2. This is an introduction to Unit 2 Practical Sports Performance. This video we're going to be focusing on the first learning aim, which is learning aim A, where you learn to understand the rules, regulations and scoring systems for selected sports. So in front of your screen now, you'll be able to see the grading criteria and the assessment criteria for this part. This video, we're going to focus primarily just on the rules, regulations and scoring systems. But what we'll start to see is that a lot of this starts to interlink. So we'll show you all of it now and then focus just on the rules, regulations and scoring system part of the coursework and assignment. So first of all, in order for you to get a pass, you need to complete these three sections. So Pass 1 is describe the rules, regulations and scoring systems of two selected sports. Now, these two selected sports, it's really important that you're familiar with these sports. You have a very good interest and strong interest in the two sports, and preferably you're playing these outside of school. Later on, within this unit, you're then going to have to perform in these sports, and also this can then link into Unit 3, where you're creating a personalised exercise program as well. So Pass 2, apply the rules of a selected sport in 4 specific situations. We will not be looking at that in this video. Pass 3, describe the roles, responsibilities of officials from 2 selected sports. We might see a slight crossover with that, with the rules and regulations. And for the merit, we then need to start to go into some more detail. And the key word here is explain. So we're explaining the role and responsibility of officials and the application of rules, regulations and scoring systems. And this is a real crucial part here for what we're going to be talking about later on. For the distinction, although we won't be focusing too much on this within this video, it's good for you just to be able to see what is required. You're then going to have to compare and contrast the roles, responsibilities of the officials from the 2 different sports, suggest valid recommendations for improvement to the application of the rules, regulations, scoring systems. So when we're going throughout our coursework, keep this in mind, because there are opportunities when we're then discussing rules and regulations for you to talk about different recommendations, what your opinions are on these rules and regulations and why they're important or why they might need to change in the future. Sport must have governed rules and regulations. Rules are a set of agreed standards that are laid down to standardize how sport is to be played, such as how many people are on each side, how you score points. Rules also cover what behavior is acceptable and unacceptable, and how unacceptable behavior can be punished. So for instance, how a yellow and red card is used within football, how there are sin bins within rugby, and so on. Rules are set down by national or international governing bodies of sports, such as FIFA for football or the IRB for rugby union. In some sports, such as cricket, the rules are also referred to as laws of the game. So there's a couple of examples that I've got here for you as well. So for instance, offside in football, contact in basketball, and fouls in netball, such as travelling. Regulations are relating to a specific aspect of the rules and how the rules should be implemented. Regulations include details of various elements, including the playing surface, the type of equipment that is acceptable, for example, what any equipment is made from, the length, any time regulations such as timeouts or added on time, the method of how you substitute players, health and safety of officials. So here on your screen, you can see a couple of examples of governing bodies for various different sports. And as we spoke about previously, governing bodies agree the rules and regulations. And it would be worth noting within your coursework or your preparation for your coursework who the national governing body is for your 2 sports. So the examples that we've got here, we've got Badminton England, England Netball, Basketball England, the FA and the. So when completing your coursework, it's entirely up to you and how the assignment brief is given and worded to you, but typically you'll be able to do this in a Word format or on a PowerPoint. So what I'm going to start doing is giving you some examples that have been taken from various different sources and just give you a bit of feedback and idea of what is a pass or merit and to some extent distinction, although we won't be able to cover all of that within this. So first of all, we've got two examples here. These examples have been taken from the BTEC Sport Assessment Guide by Hodder Education. If we look at the first example, so we're talking about badminton. It's very, very brief. We've just got a couple of rules in there, and it's far too brief. Even if they were to continue with this, it's far too brief for a description and being able to describe the rules. They wouldn't achieve the level 2 pass based on that first example. The second example, however, now again, this isn't a completed version, but what we can see here is a very different approach. So first of all, it doesn't matter which sport it is, but what they've done is they've subtitled here. So these are just about the playing court. We can see that it's a little bit more specific. There's a little bit more information. So I would recommend, rather than just putting together a load of rules and regulations and just bullet pointing them, you could start to subheading them into different sections, such as the playing court, the ball, the number of players, referees, the length of game, scoring, attacking, defending. Again, it all depends on the sport that you've chosen, but this is a much better example, example 2. If they were to continue in this fashion for both sports that they've chosen, that would then give them a level 2 pass. So here we've got another example. This is an example of more of a merit type piece of work. This was done on a PowerPoint. We can see here that they're talking just about the offside in football. Just to start off with, they have a basic description that we can see in this section just here from the laser pointer. That just reaches the pass section, very similar to what we've seen in the previous example. It's very basic. What they've then added is a diagram. Further to that, they've then given an example in this section just here, which is quite a nice piece to put into the coursework. But it's this bit here where they then start to explain more, and this then gets them up to that merit section where they've then gone into further detail. We spoke right at the beginning of the video how this starts to link into some of the other areas as well. And this bit here links into the officials, which is pass 3. We're not going to focus too much on that, but again, this is how your coursework then might start to link into other sections of that. So this next example that we can see on the screen now, this was taken directly from Pearson. This is an example of what was a distinction piece of work. This is just a small snippet taken from that work. And this section is about the pitch and equipment, specifically just the football pitch, this section here. As you can see straight away, there is a lot of detail in here, but there's certain things that I want to direct your attention to. So first of all, they start talking about the surface, and they talk about grass and astro pitches. They start talking about in detail the fact that some leagues might not even allow astroturf, and therefore there's a slight difference in rules and regulations. But what is really important here is that this person starts to give their opinion as well. And we can see here, but I think grass is always the best. It's safer as well that they mention. They also start to mention the fact that astro, this section here, the only thing with astro is that it means that the games are less likely to be called off, but this is more of an issue at the lower levels. So it's starting to look at that distinction section where it says about suggesting valid recommendation for improvement to the application of rules, regulations and scoring system. It might be that you don't have improvements, but they want to see your opinion. If you think something is really good, then tell them it's good. So again, they then go into further detail about the pitch, the shape, the lines of the pitch, etc., what they're called, the different markings that we can see around here, the dimensions. It'd be really good and useful to probably put a picture in at this section. Again, they might have had a picture, but that might have been taken away from Pearson when they're giving us these examples. Again, we've got further evidence of their opinion. It says in here, in football, this is probably a good thing in regards to the width of the pitch, because some teams like a wide pitch, so there's a spelling mistake here, they have good wingers, and some like it to be tight and narrow, for instance. The variations allow the club to decide what is best for them on their home pitch. So again, we're starting to see a further development in terms of their answer here, rather than just like we saw in the early examples where we just had the bullet points, then we had a little bit more description. Here, we're really beginning to get a lot more detail about just the pitch itself, and also some of the opinions of the student themselves as well, which is then leading on to that distinction level answer. In the final section, they start talking about the differences for juniors and adults as well. So again, another element to look at and give a further explanation as to why that might be. So in most sports, so if you think about netball, basketball and football, there's different size balls for the different age of performers. So again, that might be something that you put into your coursework and start to explain why that is, why the rules and regulations are slightly different for the different age groups. So now that we've gone through quite a few different examples and spoken about the different levels, what I want to just come back to is the structure and give you a little bit more support in terms of how you then go off and structure your coursework or your preparation for your coursework. So from Pearson, the two really strong examples was a netball one, which we didn't show you, and a football one, which we took a little snippet from. And the work itself was split up into these sections for those particular sports. So for the netball, it was split into the aim of the game and scoring. So ultimately, what is the aim of the game and how do you score and how do you win in netball? The equipment, game time, teams. So that's talking about different positions and so on. Start of the game, in the game itself, footwork as a big major rule in netball, offside, out of play, defending, penalties and sanctions, and then what officials and umpires they have. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get onto the next video and we start looking at officials in more detail. The football example, again, we saw lots of detail in that example that we showed you, but the person actually split the sections into these 8 different categories. So we had the aim of the game and scoring, teams, pitch and all the different equipment that you needed within football, the game itself, offside, fouls, cards, and then officials. So I hope that you found this video quite useful, and you can go away now and look at the 2 sports for your coursework and for your assignment and start researching the rules and regulations and put them on a format, whether that's Word or a PowerPoint, with the detail that we've spoken about for the pass, merit or distinction.